Kentucky Derby.
Now they move around the turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
Let's say it is in the center of the racetrack. Seattle Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear.
Down the stretch they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command.
Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1970.
The snow is gone. The grass is green. The main track, it's fast, and temperatures are slowly on the rise. It's time for the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show, presented by TwinSpires.com. Like I mentioned, track is fast, temperatures in the upper 30s, and they are on the rise here in Louisville, Kentucky. The headlines? Let's take a look at them. Second in the Rebels, sixth in the Arkansas Derby. Hosier rejoins Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby mix for trainer Bob Baffert, who has won 3 of the last 7 editions of the Run for the Roses. Following the postponement of his Wednesday work due to unsavory conditions, Besos breezed a sharp half mile in 48 flat before galloping out 7 furlongs in 126 and 2. In his most recent start, Besos finished an improved third in the Louisiana Derby for Greg Foley. The William Walker Stakes for 3-year-old turf sprinters headlines Saturday's 10-race opening night card at Churchill Downs, Tuesday through Saturday, racing live here at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Week. Joe Christovac alongside Ed DeRosa. And Ed, we've gained about 5 degrees from yesterday. On the rise, the snow is gone, the track is fast, and we are back in business, and the forecast for next week looks pretty good.
Thankfully, I lack the perspective of how cold it was up here yesterday. I have to think it feels warmer than 5 degrees, though, based on what it looked like with the snow out there. But it's great to be out here another good day, and we've already had some action on the track this morning.
Yeah, I thought about taking my gloves off, but we're going to keep them on at least for a little while. And we did have Besos work earlier this morning, and Brandon Staubel was here. He had a great view of it. Let's join Brandon now on the 4th floor. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, come on, Joe. I've got the gloves off up here. It's a little chilly, but definitely needed them yesterday. Excited to be here once again. It's an important day. We've got possibly a couple of Oaks fillies going, but important day for all the horses, really, for gallops. We've had a few horses out already, but just a really important day. You want these gallops leading up to the works to be just as good as the ones after the works, and you want to see that the horses are coming into the races in the best possible condition. So we'll look forward to a busy Oaks and Derby break after the renovation break, and get it back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Brandon. Let's take a look at the top 20 here, and no real changes. We had the addition of Hosier. He's number 21. He is on the outside looking at this point. But Ed, on this first page, who are you most interested in at a potential price? Obviously, Essential Quality, I think we both believe is the horse to beat.
Yeah, unquestionably, and the one who's going to take money. Midnight Bourbon definitely interests me. I think I'd expect him in the 15 to 20 to 1 range. So I'd say after Essential Quality, he's the most interesting price to me at the top 10.
All right, let's take a look at the second page. 20 points right now, Ed, gets you in. Get her number at 20 points. It's different from year to year.
It is, and we've talked about these horses for a long time now, Joe, and it's important to remember we still have, 9 days until the Derby, so there could still be some subtractions, and as we look at the third page, any one of these 4, hoping there are, so they can get in. We draw 24, only 20 can start.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that King Fury gets in because he looked very impressive in the Lexington Stakes for Ken McPeak. And I think of those 4 on the also eligible list, and Dream Shake still may be questionable for the Derby, looking maybe more towards the Pat Day Mile. If he comes out, then obviously Hosier would get in, but King Fury would be the next one.
King Fury, the next one. Keep Me in Mind does have a win on the track, and
right.
We've talked a lot about the potential pace, and I like Besos as a closer. Keep Me in Mind could be interesting for that reason.
All right, we've got a very special guest on the backstretch. We welcome in trainer Todd Pletcher, who has started more horses in the Kentucky Derby than any other trainer in the history of the sport. He will saddle 4 in this year's race. Todd, good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Morning.
All right, Todd. So on paper, Florida Derby winner, Known Agenda looks like your strongest Derby contender. You added blinkers 2 races ago. It really seems to have made a world of difference. And last weekend, you worked him with Sainthood.
Yeah, I do think the blinkers have made a big difference in his early race focus. And but I also think, being a son of Curlin, he's a horse that's just improving with time and experience. So I think, I'm really pleased with the way he's doing. And hopefully we have another solid work tomorrow. And then just hoping everybody stays healthy.
Todd, right now we're looking at Known Agenda working with Sainthood, and sort of a tale of 2 campaigns. Sainthood, you shipped to Fairgrounds for the maiden win and then up to Turfway for the stakes experience in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. What's his trajectory been like as a 3-year-old?
Well, he's definitely improving. My biggest concern is just his lack of experience with only 3 starts. But, he stepped up in the Jeff Ruby, ran a big race. He was arguably the best horse, encountered some traffic and was coming on late. So I was pleased with the way he ran and certainly happy with the way he's been training here at Churchill.
Does he have a jockey assignment yet?
He does not.
Are you going to break that news for us now?
I am not. No,
okay.
we're gonna wait, see how everybody does this weekend, and we'll get together with the WinStar and China Horse Club people, make a decision probably Sunday or Monday.
Hey, Todd, this is Brandon Staubel up on the 4th floor. Can you just kind of talk about, you got here early, a couple weeks early with all your horses. I mean, I've seen Colonel Liam Breeze and several of the other horses. Can you just talk about what goes into that decision? Because I know previous years you've come in, other times you haven't. Can you just talk about to the fans at home maybe what goes into that decision?
Well, in this particular case, the reason is we were just spread out everywhere. We had Bourbonic and Dynamic One were at Belmont and just ran in the Wood Memorial. Malathaat was at Keeneland. She'd just run in the Ashland. We had Sainthood at Keeneland also because he'd run at Turfway. And then, of course, we had Known Agenda and Colonel Liam down at Palm Beach Downs. So kind of looking at it from a management standpoint, we felt like consolidating everyone under one barn was the way to go. And I mean, you can look at it historically, and I don't think there's a secret formula to how you're successful in the Derby. Years ago when we first started running the race, everyone said you had to have a major breeze over the track in order to be successful, and I think that's been proven wrong, especially in recent years.
Todd, two of the two you mentioned, half your Derby arsenal come from the Wood Memorial. They ran there 1-2, talking, of course, Bourbonic and Dynamic One. And were you as shocked as the tote board when Bourbonic got the job done at 70+ to 1?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was surprised. The one thing we felt like is the horse wanted a 1 1/8, and that's the first opportunity we'd been able to give him around 2 turns at a 1 1/8. So we felt confident about that, but we also knew he had to take a big step forward, which he was able to do. Now, Dynamic One on the other side, that was not a surprise to us that he ran well. He's a horse that is trained as good as any of our horses all year, and he just, he's been a little bit slow to put it all together. He got unlucky a couple times at Gulfstream with some outside draws, which can be very tough in the 2-turn races. So his performance was not as surprising as Bourbonic's.
Now, Todd, you worked those two in company, Dynamic One and Bourbonic, and obviously we saw Known Agenda and Sainthood. You've got the final work coming up this weekend. What's your game plan for these 4 horses for the finishing touches going into Saturday?
We're going to finalize that decision today, actually, because we're planning on breezing everything tomorrow with rain, kind of in the forecast for Saturday. It keeps changing a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to roll the dice on Saturday, so I think we're going to go with everyone tomorrow. Probably going to switch it up a little bit with Dynamic One. He might work with a horse named Prime Factor, and actually Bourbonic, he's been pretty aggressive in his gallops here in the last few days, so if he's like that again this morning, I'm probably going to breeze him by himself.
Malathaat, the undefeated filly. She goes into the Kentucky Oaks as maybe the likely favorite. You've won the race 3 times. Is she going to breeze this morning? Obviously, she ran huge at Keeneland. Short stretch, and she still got the job done there.
Yeah, she's actually going to breeze tomorrow as well, and she's training great. She's been just a superstar from day one. Does everything very professionally, and we're excited about her. Yeah, I thought turning for home in the Ashland, she had too much to do to the short wire, but she has that innate instinct to want to pass every horse in front of her, and that's what she was able to do.
All right, Todd. Well, we really, really appreciate your time. We wish you the best of luck with your 4 Kentucky Derby contenders with Malathaat and the Oaks. And Todd, congratulations on your Hall of Fame nomination. I think you might have an outside chance to get in, buddy.
Thanks very much.
All right, Todd Pletcher, the trainer of 4 Kentucky Derby contenders, also the filly Malathaat and the Kentucky Oaks. And earlier today, we saw Besos work. The final works are going to be coming up. Todd mentioned maybe pulling that audible to Friday. We're going to have a lot of action on the track tomorrow, Ed. Let's take a look at the credentials for Besos, who was a good closing third in the Louisiana Derby in his most recent start. Greg Foley with a Kentucky Derby starter for the 2nd consecutive year. And this is the only horse in the race in the Derby that is sired by a former Kentucky Derby winner, Ed.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot to like from a Derby profile perspective. You mentioned sired by the Derby winner. Unfortunately, I love this horse as a potential long shot. It seems like every time he moves his hoof, the price drops another point. And this morning sounds like no exception. Looking forward to hearing what Brandon has to say about the work. But on paper, just the type of handicapper I am, I think he has a long shot chance for sure.
The work was aborted yesterday, postponed till this morning. Goes a half mile and 48 flat. Marcelino Pedrosa, hold on. It's Besos. Brandon?
Yeah, guys, Greg Foley typically works all of his horses from the shorter pole. So we'll say, the 3 furlong pole is going to be a half mile work. So he's going to break off at the 3 furlong pole, work out past the wire, teaching the horses to make sure they finish up around the turn. And Besos definitely did that today. You can see him at the quarter pole there, that big red pole, and just kind of got him under a good hold here. He switched leads on cue. A little bit, not headstrong, but just he was a little energized early, so he got him to relax. And really, this work doesn't even start until the finish line. And here, once they get close to the finish line, he's going to ask him to go ahead and gallop out past the wire. And that was where the work really started. I thought it was a very similar move to what I saw here last week. Around the turn, he really, and there you can see Marcelino kind of getting after him, saying, let's go, it's time to go. And he goes ahead at the 7/8 pole and continues to gallop out around the backside. Very similar work to what we saw last week. He's got that closing kick, and that's what he showed in the workout here. He final time was good, 48 flat, but like I said, 7 furlongs and 126 and 2. Really did all of his work past the wire. So he's got that closing kick. It's just whether or not is it going to translate to 2 turns and a mile and a quarter. We know he can do it sprinting. We know he closed well in the Louisiana Derby, but everything he's done leading up to the race, guys, he's very impressive and seems to be coming in his best form.
We know Greg Foley really well, Brandon. We have 3 horses with him with brilliant racing. What do you think Greg's going to do now leading up to Saturday, because this worked a little earlier than the rest of the Derby contenders?
Yeah, that's just the MO of the barn. I mean, Greg's probably just going to give him a couple of easy days and then just bring him back with some strong gallops. And look, he's been here before. He had Major Fed last year, and I'm sure he learned a lot. And just overall, he's just an outstanding trainer. He's really, I think, the last several years, just kind of elevated his game and his whole barn. Just the name Foley has kind of been elevated this past several years. Horses like Sconson and, like I said, Major Fed being in the Derby. So he's definitely one that you're not going to have to worry about as far as being prepared and having this horse ready to run. That
was a very, very, very nice work there from Besos. Certainly our top 10s are fluid, and he's going to move up a couple of spots on mine after that work here this morning at Churchill Downs. Now, I know you like Besos, but I also know you like this guy. You're highly motivated to potentially play this Chad Brown trainee.
Definitely pushing in that direction, and I don't have much room to move Besos up my top 10 because he's number 3, and number 2 is highly motivated. So excited to see 2 of the top 3 on my list, with Essential Quality being the top one. I thought the Bluegrass was good. Made the lead, which was different for him. I love a horse who can show a new dimension. He worked this past weekend at Keeneland. Chad Brown's already here within this one. Seems like a lot of optimism from this camp, and I'm here for it.
Fast workout this past week at Keeneland earlier in the week off of the big effort in the Bluegrass. And Brandon, we see these muddy conditions from yesterday, but highly motivated. Got a chance to stretch his legs for Chad Brown.
Yeah, I thought he's looked great the last several days, carrying a lot of weight, good flesh. You can see the ears prick there. Rider's just got a long hold. Letting him do a little bit, but not too much. Typical Chad Brown, going to come out here and probably let him do a little more today. Just some aggressive gallops leading up to the work this weekend. Thought it was noteworthy, the work at Keeneland. You know, Chad Brown's a guy that is not going to work his horses in 46, 47. Usually it's a 48, 49. But this horse feeling so good after the race goes out there and throws up a 47 and change. So couldn't be really doing any better. I know we say that a lot, but this horse seems to be really thriving right now. And I like the fact, too, that this was the plan all along. Stop on him after the Nyquist Stakes and then bring him back with 2 preps and then third off the layoff in the Kentucky Derby.
Highly motivated for Chad Brown. Should be forwardly placed in the Kentucky Derby, although Chad did say in an interview yesterday that he'd like to have a target to run at for highly motivated. Kind of very similar horses, Ed. Highly motivated Besos. We know they're tremendous around one turn mile potentially. Trying to get that 1.25 miles, maybe a little bit of a different way.
I think he will have a target to run at because I think this is sort of a tiered Derby when it comes to pace. It's not just front and back end runners. Caddo River figures to be on the front end. Rock Your World might be the one to take first run, and then Highly Motivated might be in that next tier with Rock Your World as his target. Highly Motivated might be Essential Quality's target, and Essential Quality might be Besos' target. So hopefully there's an exciting stretch battle. They finish 1, 2, 3, and I win hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And Hot Rod Charlie and Midnight Bourbon are probably in that forward mix as well. Going to be a very intriguing addition, the 147th of the Kentucky Derby. We have people watching from all over the country via social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. If you have a question, you have a comment, you have a horse that you like, just share some information with us via social media. We'll try to get to as many of those questions as possible. Capital M, capital A, capital N, Mandaloun. We're going to ride along with him after the break. He is in perfect harmony with his rider. We'll be right back.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or two, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
One moment, you're up in the sky, and the next, you're in a free fall, 10,000 feet above the ocean. You have 30 seconds between you and the water's surface, and it's these 30 seconds that define who you are. Because how we face the fall is what separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is your legacy.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show, about 13 minutes away from the designated training time for our Derby and Oaks contenders. Track is fast, temperature nearing 40 degrees here on a Thursday morning in Louisville. And the biggest wild card in this year's Kentucky Derby might be Mandaloun. He was awesome in the Risen Star. He threw in a clunker in the Louisiana Derby. He seemingly has trained well in recent weeks for Brad Cox, who has loved this horse all along. 15-1 range maybe on Derby Day. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say 15-1's right, and it is a wild card because he has run well enough to win this race. Unquestionably, the Risen Star, if it translates to 1.25 miles, could win the Kentucky Derby, but that Twin Spires Louisiana Derby weighs heavy on me. I'm against him for that reason, but certainly can understand why if people like what they see over the next week or so, they'd gravitate back toward him, and I know we have some interesting footage.
Florent Giroux is the regular rider of Mandaloun, but today we're going to jump aboard Mandaloun via the GoPro. And Brandon, some interesting views here. You've got some company on the inside. You've got Mandaloun here. Tell us what you see.
Yeah, I think these shots are great to check out the horse's ears, and you can see that left ear is kind of flicking back and forth, signaling that he's kind of picking up the workmate. The right ear is completely turned around, kind of listening for the jockey's instructions, waiting on any kind of a smooch or a chirp at the horse when to take off. But at this point, too, these smarter horses, they know that starting around the turn, that the work's just getting started. They're having fun. They see the mate to the left. They're in that aggressive mode, especially this horse. He's a very high energy horse, so just having fun out there. But I think, like I said, this view is great to see the ears on the horse and just kind of him taking in all the sights. You can see the clubhouse there and the grandstand on the right side. They're coming down the lane here, and the workmate's going to start. You can see the workmate's ears are pinned back too, and he's trying to fight on. But Mandaloun's ear, that left ear cocked, kind of taking in his mate, and then the right ear still kind of back at Giroux, and then you can see Giroux's hands going to go ahead and push on him a little bit. He wants him to gallop out. There's the finish line right there. There he's really going to ask him to gallop out here, kind of throw the hands forward, really get something out of this work, and he really responded. Just a really excellent view to be able to check out not only the way the jockey's riding the horse, but also the nature and how the ears are on the horse. You can see even on the gallop out, the ears are kind of flicking back and forth, telling us, signaling to us that there was plenty left there.
The one thing that strikes me, Brandon and Joe, watching this that I don't get an appreciation for with pan shots and things like that is you can really tell the horse responding and accelerating as well as decelerating here on the backside. I mean, there's a noticeable speed difference, and it's just an awesome view and another way to appreciate the thoroughbred.
All right, let's move on to Essential Quality. There are no question marks about him, as we talked about Mandaloun being a wild card. This horse checks all the boxes. He's never lost. He's got a versatile running style. He's got the pedigree. He's got the connections, and he just got everything going for him. Essential Quality galloped on April 21st, which was yesterday, and that's early in the morning, Brandon. Again, off-track conditions. And right now the forecast looks great for the Kentucky Derby. Do you look at these horses at all and say, oh, I'm really curious to see, what their attitudes are when the racetrack is off in the mornings like this?
Maybe just a little bit. I mean, it's something to consider when you, if on race day, if it comes up sloppy, just to see how they're handling things. Are they completely different out there with their behaviors compared to on a fast surface? But the one thing about this horse, he's been completely professional every time you see him. We mentioned yesterday undefeated, and we had a question from a viewer about Triple Crown potential. It's just hard to say. He doesn't strike me as an American Pharaoh type, but he just doesn't really do anything wrong, and his demeanor is one of his best assets. Just seems like no matter what they throw at him, he goes out there and he just does it, and really likes and enjoys what he does.
Essential Quality, the likely favorite for the Kentucky Derby. Ed, we've been talking. We're thinking maybe 3-1.
Yeah, I'd say 3-1, 5-2 the floor, 7-2 the ceiling. Definitely that range.
Every horse starts somewhere, and we've got a special photo that we'd like to show you now of Essential Quality as a baby. And here, Ed, he looks like a chestnut. So I'm like, what's going on? Is this an imposter foal? But usually gray foals will be born black or chestnut, and then they change over their first year and a half slowly. They shed their black and red hairs and then become gray. They're also usually born with gray circles around their eyes, and if their parents are gray, then that's normally a sign too that they can eventually become gray. But this is a great shot here of Essential Quality. Who knew at this time what this horse would wind up being?
Yeah, it all starts somewhere, as you said, humble beginnings, just in the hay like any other foal. He is royally bred, though, and if he were to win the Derby, he'd be a multiple Grade 1 winning champion Derby potential sire. I think the value would be in the tens of millions of dollars. So, they all start like this, but this one has a potential big price tag on him.
Much like Baby Yoda, Baby EQ, very valuable, even as a young foal. Oaks points leaders, Travel Column, Brad Cox, Clarier, Steve S. Muss, and they battled throughout the entire winter at the fairgrounds, and they battled here at Churchill Downs in the Goldenrod as well. Right now it's Travel Column 2, Clarier 1, but at its search results, who has the most points?
Search results, I believe, is undefeated as well for Chad Brown, another undefeated filly that we mentioned earlier with Todd Pletcher, Malathaat. This is an absolutely fantastic competitive Oaks. A full field in this with the Derby would make that Oaks Derby double just spectacular.
Oaks 14 horse, Coach getting in, and Brad Cox confirming she will run if all goes well this weekend. But this is the big gun in the Philly Brigade for Brad Cox. It's Travel Column, Ed, and obviously Brad Cox hasn't started a horse in the Derby yet. 3 of them this year, no stranger to winning the Oaks.
No, he's not, and they've come in similar to the way this one is, and admittedly I did try to beat her last time, and she was spectacular, much the best. You mentioned it's now 2-1 over Clairiere. I know you're bullish on this turning into a tie game in the Oaks. I'm not sure what's going to change from the Fairgrounds variety, though. So Travel Column, to me, definitely one of the ones to beat, and looked great doing it last time out.
Yeah, she's going to get first run, Brandon, on Clairiere, as she has in all of their matchups. But I just think that 9 furlong distance may be the great equalizer. Either way, you have to be impressed by Travel Column. I mean, that goldenrod that she won here as a 2-year-old, she overcame adversity to do so, which is a good sign going into a big race like the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, and very similar to Essential Quality, her professionalism on track in the mornings and obviously in the races as well has been what impresses me. I mean, you can see just on the screen here, very controlled energy. She was out this morning already, and just much of the same. I mean, she just really carries herself with a great demeanor and just a very quality filly, as we know, and I'm excited to see her run as well.
From Travel Column to Brad Cox's other filly, Ed, this is Coach, and you're very familiar, obviously, with the owner, Keeber Racing. Rick Keeber, tell us a little bit about Coach and the fact that she's in the race has to please her connections.
Absolutely, and she belongs. I mean, I understand, points-wise how it shakes out and why she'll be a long shot. Has not won since winning the Rags to Riches back in October, but the Rags to Riches is here at Churchill Downs, so that all-important win on the track. And looking at the some of the numbers I look at, Brisnet, Thorough Manager, etc., she definitely fits at a big price. With the win over the track, certainly one I won't mind sprinkling the exotics, and I'd love to be at the after party at Royals if she wins, so I'll be cheering for her.
From Coach to Pauline's Pearl, one of 2 for Steve Asmussen, Clairiere being the other one, and she's really advanced nicely in her career, Brandon. I'm a little bit skeptical of the company that she's faced, even in her recent stakes victory, but she certainly has the pedigree to be a good one.
Yeah, you kind of feel like she's just now starting to maybe figure things out a little bit. Maybe possibly down the road towards the end of the year, she's really going to hit her prime, but she's done everything right here as far as her breezes and her gallops. Another one that just carries herself well, obviously in the barn of Steve Asmussen, going to get schooled very well. So she's definitely on the improve, but how good she is, we're going to have to certainly find that out. Lots
of tremendous pedigrees in this year's Kentucky Oaks, including that of Clairiere, who couldn't be better, bred top and bottom. And there she is. This is my pick for the Kentucky Oaks. I'm not getting off of her. I love the 9 furlong distance for her. I think she'll get an honest pace. I think she continues to develop physically and mentally, Ed. And Clairiere, you mentioned I might get 5-1. She's going to be my key in that Oaks Derby double, and I'm going to go to the window with both fists.
You're without a doubt getting 5-1, unless there's, I would say, you need 2 major scratches not to. She's just not going to be one of the top choices. Certainly, she'll take money. I actually prefer the other Asmussen, if I'm being honest. They're both from Stone Street. And you mentioned the breeding. This one's curling out of cavorting. Pauline's Pearl is Tappet out of Hot Dixie Chick. Just incredible pedigrees here in the Oaks. And Clairiere, certainly in the mix, but I'm going to try to beat her, but I understand why you like her.
Crazy Beautiful is going to school at the gate, I'm being told a little bit later on this morning. Here she is in her recent breeze. Brandon and I know you were impressed by this.
Yeah, I've been saw the breeze before this too. Right now, this is one of my top contenders for the Oaks, just the way she's coming into the race. I love the way she's traveling here at Churchill. Obviously very familiar with the surface, but she just seems to really be thriving right now. The last 2 breezes have been excellent. This one included. You can see changing leads on cue there. The ears are just flopping down the lane. I mean, you can just see them there, just so relaxed and doing it well within herself, and seems to be hitting her best stride right now, and that's what you want. You want a filly that's coming into the race that looks like she's going to be ready to run another big one, and she's not an overly big filly, but she does definitely know her job, and she's got a nice steady rhythm about her, but it's just really impressed me the way that she's looked the last couple of weeks.
Trainer Kenny McPeak has finished 2nd in the Kentucky Oaks 3 different times. What does he think about Crazy Beautiful's chances to maybe get him over the proverbial Oaks hump?
She's had a history of striking herself a little bit from her front toes, touch her back back legs, and we actually fixed it over the winter. We gave her a break. Both her and King Fury both got a couple of months off from their 2- and 3-year-old season. I think she's a lot better horse this year. Her 2 races this year have been fantastic, and she's training as best as she's probably ever trained. And another one, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm excited for Jose Ortiz to be on her as well. Actually, him and Crazy Beautiful may very well work in company.
Crazy Beautiful for Kenny McPeak, like I mentioned, a 3-time runner-up in the Kentucky Oaks. We've had a lot of great content in the first half hour of the show, but the time you've all been waiting for, the traditional time that the Oaks and Derby horses go out, will be coming up in just a moment. We'll be right back.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or 2, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show as you see fans gathering, getting a glimpse of this year's contenders as they're about ready to enter the main track for the designated training time. Wave hello, everybody. The Oaks horses and the Derby horses as well, and I have no idea if she can hear me when I asked her to wave, but
I think so.
Fans certainly enjoying themselves here. And Ed, this is Caddo River. We got word a couple of days ago that he is going to go into the race. Whether or not you like him as a potential contender, certainly important to the pace scenario.
No doubt about it. Would expect him to be on the lead, and based on what we saw in the Rebel and Arkansas Derby, making that lead essential for his best shot, and actually outgamed Concert Tour for 2nd in the Arkansas Derby after being able to have that advantage. So I'd be shocked if he's not on the lead at least into the first turn, and we'll see how far he can go.
Yeah, post position draw coming up on Tuesday in a 20-horse race, obviously critical. You try to think to yourself how you approach the potential pace scenario based on what we've seen on paper and in the races from these horses, but a lot can be determined by that draw.
I would say for Cox, who has 3, Caddo River probably post matters least if they're going to gun, and then Essential Quality or Mandaloun, I'm guessing, would not want to be buried down inside.
Brandon, what did you take from Todd Pletcher's interview earlier as to what he thinks about his training moving forward? We just saw Dynamic One very briefly there.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show how these trainers operate, especially the high-level ones, that they don't make rash decisions. You know, we're going to just wait. We're going to play everything by ear and kind of take everything in, wait till the last minute, and try to make the best decision possible. He wouldn't even confirm the workmates, although he did say that he possibly would work Bourbonic solo just because that high energy that we've seen the last couple of days. He doesn't want him to do too much. So it was kind of really cool insight into the mind of Todd Pletcher.
There you see Caddo River. And Brandon, obviously the Oaks is on Friday, the Derby's on Saturday. You know, the week out workout type scenario. A lot of Oaks horses obviously going to go tomorrow, but do you think a lot of Derby horses might push up, including the Pletchers? If we see rain in the forecast on Saturday, we could be in for a very, very, very busy Friday.
I could definitely see it. I know that Brad Cox usually likes to bring out Essential Quality early, so I could possibly see him maybe going tomorrow at 5:15 or even trying to maybe beat the rain on Saturday morning going early. So be a lot of audibles called, I'm sure, and a lot of last-minute decisions.
Will's Secret, I believe, might be working today. We'll find that out in just a little bit. Todd Pletcher mentioning that Malathaat was going to work tomorrow. I got a glare here trying to see, though. Oh, that's Essential Quality.
Essential Quality.
And we saw his baby picture earlier. You see him as a beautiful gray now. This is your likely Kentucky Derby favorite, Ed, for Brad Cox. And again, good energy on the racetrack, just out there with the pony right now, trying to stretch the legs out a little bit with a workout coming either tomorrow or Saturday.
This is one of those interesting balances of the pari-mutuel game, because to me there's some Rodney Dangerfield no respect, and it's like, well, how can you say that? He's going to be the clear favorite. He's an undefeated champion. He was never the favorite in any of the Kentucky Derby future pools among the individual interests. That was always a Bob Baffert trainee, and it just never seems he takes the kind of money you would expect with his credentials. He is going to be the favorite on May 1st, but I know some people are looking for some chinks in the armor.
Yeah, you try to. I mean, you try to poke holes.
Yeah,
it's really
that's part of the game.
I guess the only thing that you could poke a hole as far as Essential Quality goes is the 3-to-1 price, because he's never done anything wrong. He's 3 for 3. He's done everything right in all of his races. He started in a sprint. He's run 2 turns very successfully. He's versatile. He's got great breeding and great connection.
Yeah, I would say our colleague and friend Brian Nadeau mentioned on a seminar I did yesterday, he's only as fast as some others. Now, he's been consistently that fast, which is why he's the favorite. But if you want to not take a short price on a horse who's just as fast as some others, I get it.
Brandon, gate schooling here?
Yeah, all 3 Brad Cox horses are over at the gate, I believe. Mandaloun, there you can see in the background, Caddo River, and Essential Quality in the gate right now. They do have the blinkers on. He's been galloping without them. I'm sure that's customary just to keep him relaxed, but we are going to go to the gate and school, so let's put the blinkers on just to trying to simulate race day. So going to stand him in there. Looks like he's standing well, and they'll back him out, and then I'm sure they'll put in the other 2. So a couple of horses too in the chute as well went to the new starting gate. So looked like Will's Secret had a gallop guy on, so I don't think they're going to go today, guys.
Okay, very interesting. We appreciate that information. And Brandon, as far as the gate goes too, and Essential Quality's been here, so the gate crew probably knows him pretty well, but there are going to be a lot of new horses that come into Churchill Downs for the Derby, the Oaks, and any race actually that get to school in the gate. The horses need to be familiar with the gate, but the people that work the gate need to be familiar with the horses and their quirks as well.
Sorry, repeat that, guys.
No, just the whole gate schooling process. Not only the horses being familiar with the gate, but the people that work on the gate getting familiar with the horses.
Right, exactly. You don't want any surprise. Obviously, in the biggest stage in the world on the Kentucky Derby Day, Kentucky Oaks Day as well, you don't want any surprises. So if there's any new quirks that maybe have developed, it's not uncommon for certain things to kind of act up. Horses that have been good in the gate before, maybe something new that kind of sets them off. I mean, it could be anything here in the mornings too. I mean, a siren goes off. Pony gets loose. Anything happens out here. These guys just want to be ready and be able to talk to the jockeys too. Anything that's new that they need to know about certainly doesn't hurt at all.
Brad Cox, trio of Kentucky Derby contenders schooling at the gate. From Brad Cox and the Kentucky Derby to Todd Pletcher and Malathaat, at the likely favorite in the Kentucky Oaks, would you say?
I think she'll be the favorite.
The favorite, okay. I mean, what kind of price are we looking at?
Probably around Essential Quality. I think it's going to be a little tighter, though, where there's clearly going to be a gap to the second and third choices in the Derby. The Oaks will probably be a little more compressed, but 5-2.
Mentioned this earlier when we talked to Todd Pletcher. A Malathaat has never lost, and she was in a short stretched mile in a 16th race last out at Keeneland and passed the Champagne, made a huge move to make the lead. It looked like she was long gone. Malathaat was able to catch her, and over that short stretch made it more impressive to me at longer stretch, 9 furlongs here at Churchill.
And I think she's a spectacular filly for sure. She won at 9 furlongs as a 2-year-old in the Demoiselle. Didn't come back until 3 in the Ashland. It's a short stretch. That race has produced a lot of big long shot type results, but she got the job done off the bench, and now second off the layoff. This just seems like a total Todd Pletcher ready to explode in the biggest race of her career.
Brandon, your thoughts on Malathaat and maybe even the Oaks in general?
Yeah, very nice looking filly, impressive filly. Obviously costs a lot of money, and she's just carried good energy the whole time she's been here. You can see those ears pricked up, kind of just going easy with the gallop girl aboard, and just just travels really smoothly. A little bit of high knee action, but travels very smoothly through it. I think it's a good rendition of the Oaks. I think there's several possibilities that can take it. As far as the long shots go, I feel like it's more of the top end players, but it'll be certainly interesting to see. It's nice to be able to see these Oaks fillies be able to get over the track and get a couple of works in, so we can really see them stretch their legs out and see how they're coming into the race.
Yeah, Todd Pletcher mentioning getting here early and kind of explaining that. Malathaat was already at Keeneland, kind of circumstantial, but Todd himself here, and I know Todd enjoys this experience. He's been through it so many times with so many Derby and Oaks horses, and just the camaraderie on the backstretch, the media, everything that's involved in Kentucky Derby week, and even the week leading up to that, certainly is something that a trainer relishes each and every year they can make it here at. And Malathaat, looking at a 5-2 price, you've got Travel Column, you've got Clarier, you've got search results. Going into it, I would say one of the strongest Oaks fields we've seen in recent memories from top to bottom.
I would agree. I mean, everyone who won their preps and looked good in them is here, so that's spectacular. And again, I'll mention it, 14 horses in a competitive Oaks, 20 in the Derby. That Oaks Derby doubles maybe the bet of the week.
Malathaat, muscles on top of muscles. She couldn't look any better. Just fit as a fiddle. Coats shining here as the sun shines upon it. Malathaat, the likely favorite for the Kentucky Oaks. Will Secret certainly has gotten better and better and better in recent months for trainer Dallas Stewart. She is familiar to all of us who live and breed Kentucky racing, and also the racing in Louisiana, and most recently at Arkansas, where she's been doing her best work in stakes competition, and then last out at Keeneland as well. So she certainly doesn't need to take her track with her. And Brandon Dallas Stewart, obviously very good on the big stage, particularly with some of his long shots.
Yeah, certainly. I mentioned a couple days ago on the show that there's nobody you could really want to prepare a horse for this. I mean, he's won the big races, Breeders' Cup races, and just knows how to bring these horses up to the right race. I mean, it's just the training, the individualization. We run into Dallas a lot down here in the grandstand. He's watching every single gallop. He's telling these guys if they're not doing something right or something they want. And he's been around big horses even before he started training. So, yeah, I mean, this horse is going to be well prepared and ready to run.
Will Secret with a late closing kick that she should be able to put forth, going 9 furlongs here at Churchill. Ed, we mentioned Malathaat passed the Champagne. She was third to them in the Ashland, and that short stretch on mile and a 16th race at Keeneland didn't do her any favors. She too should relish the 9 furlongs here at Churchill.
Yeah, and she's capable of being closer to the pace as we saw in the Honeybee, and I think now that she stretches out that extra half furlong here in the Oaks, I wouldn't be surprised to see John Court want to get mid-pack at the very least. I don't think we're going to see the same trip as we saw in the Ashland.
The ageless John Court, who just keeps bouncing back. He's ridden Will Secret the last 5 times, 3 of those victorious efforts and a couple of thirds as well. Certainly a progressive filly going into a very, very solid edition of the 2021 147th edition of the Kentucky Oaks. Will Secret there for trainer Dallas Stewart. Track is fast here this morning. Temperature nearing 40 degrees as the Oaks and Derby contenders continue to train here. Maybe an opportunity to take a social media question or two. We have a question from Karen on Facebook. Is there an ideal temperature for race day? I will say that 101 of the 146 previous Kentucky Derbies have been run on a fast track, Ed. There was one, obviously, last year that was run in September, but the previous 2 were not fun.
No.
I mean, they were fun. Don't get me wrong. They were fun. We loved it. But rainy conditions, sloppy racetracks. Horses like temperatures in the 50s. People like temperatures in the mid-70s.
Yeah, I would say, and I'm willing to split the difference. Dry, the most important thing to me. So wanting to see 0 precipitation, and I'll trade off on the temperature. But, yeah, mid-60s I think would suit everyone.
Melissa on Facebook wants to know if Luis Saez is a good match for Essential Quality. Well, Luis Saez, obviously the disqualified winner of the Kentucky Derby with maximum security a couple of years ago, potentially, at least in my mind, a great fit for Essential Quality. And I guess the only opinion that matters is that of Brad Cox. But this is one of the best riders in the country, hands down, Ed.
Absolutely. Luis Saez is having a spectacular Keeneland meeting. 2 days left in that before we shift over to here Saturday night. The thing with Luis to remember with Essential Quality is I remember, why isn't Florent on this horse? Well, Godolphin owns and breds Essential Quality. And Luis Saez, one of their go-tos. Kieran McLaughlin is now Luis's agent, so he makes a lot of sense there. But he's ended up fitting the horse great, and definitely expect him to have to work a trip because he's not going to be as close as he was in the Bluegrass.
Richard on Facebook, Brandon, wants to know, is Known Agenda Todd Pletcher's best horse? And based on what you've seen on paper in the races and the training, is Known Agenda Todd Pletcher's best shot in the Kentucky Derby of the 4 that he has?
On paper, I would say yes. As far as training goes, I would say maybe. We're going to see in these final breezes. I'd like to see a little more from Known Agenda in his next breeze. I know you don't want to do too much before that last work, but I just need to see a little more. I thought Dynamic One breezed excellent, and we even heard Todd talk about Dynamic One and say that they've always expected him to be a really nice horse, and maybe the light bulb's finally going on. So I would say yes to that first one, to Known Agenda, and then a maybe to that second one.
Yeah, I would think of the 4, if you asked him 3 months ago which one he thought would be the best of those, it would be Dynamic One. They paid a big price for him. He's a physical specimen. He's just now starting to figure it out. Jason on Facebook wants our opinions on Superstock. Ed, I'll start with you, then we'll go to Brandon quickly, and then I'll give you my thoughts on Superstock. Ed?
We've talked a lot about horses winning their final prep, and that being a key to winning the Derby. So for that reason and at the price, he's sort of a mid-tier contender for me. Still probably going to need some improvement, and don't love that he had a perfect trip last out, but 15 or 20 to 1, you could do worse.
Great story on Superstock, Brandon, but they have to show it on the racetrack. Quick thought on him?
Yeah, I think Ed alluded to it. Kind of a perfect trip. Let 2 horses kind of battle each other and then just kind of picked up the pieces. He's going to have to take a little bit of a step forward. Not impossible, but I would say just make sure you get your price.
Yeah, it would be a great story. Steve Asmussen with 2 horses in the Derby this year and a family affair with Superstock. Caddo River just moments ago on the racetrack, a likely pace setter. Brandon, I'm going to go to you on Caddo River here. We've talked about the fact that he has natural early speed. Do horses with natural early speed, particularly the ones that you think might be the likely pace setter, do they train any differently than some of these others? I mean, do you see, the way this horse is training, he's certainly going to be forwardly placed?
I mean, I think, energy is something that you look for. Caddo River's shown a lot of energy coming out of the race, and I think they just always train with that natural speed. I mean, when you breeze them, they're usually going to breeze. They're not going to breeze in 103 unless you're trying to do that on purpose. They're going to be more in that minute range, 101, and even faster than that. So just because they're naturally gifted with that early speed, they're usually going to be pretty forward in the morning. So very impressed with what I've seen from this runner, just physically an imposing individual, and I'm very interested in this horse, particularly the fact that the pace dynamics are going to be in his favor.
All right, we got one more quick question here from Allie on YouTube. She wants to know my pick for the Kentucky Oaks. It's Clariere. I'm going to make that very clear over the course of the next 9 days. All right.
Clear the air on Clariere?
I'm clearing the air on that right away. Clariere is my Oaks pick. Helium schooling in the paddock a little earlier this morning. And Brandon, no stone left unturned when it comes to the preparation. Maybe explain the schooling process. We saw it in the gate earlier. Now Helium in the paddock earlier this morning.
Yeah, just checking all the boxes here. You want to get your horse to the paddock and just kind of go through that routine. I mean, horses are very routine oriented, so they know when they're supposed to do things. And sometimes, especially off of this layoff, we saw him go to the gate in that last work. Go ahead and make him familiar with the starting gate again, the schooling and the gate during the afternoon, in the morning activity, and then the paddock as well. Go ahead and get him familiar with the Churchill Downs paddock and put him in the stall and just just kind of make him check all those boxes. I mean, at this point, all these trainers are very meticulous. You just want to make sure that your horse is prepared, obviously with the crowd noise, and that's going to be a different aspect than last year. You never know how they're actually going to handle that, but that's just part of the process. Going to the paddock, getting in the stall, and then being able to take a few laps around and get back on track.
Yeah, it's a factor every year, Ed. The massive crowd here at Churchill Downs, it's not going to be as massive as it normally is in a normal year, but none of these people have been in a situation lately with this kind of crowd, and certainly the horses haven't. Leading up to this, very sparse crowds at these racetracks, even for the bigger races, they're going to have to prove that they can handle this mentally.
Yeah, it's definitely lower in quantity, but when you think about maybe the exponential progression of the crowds, this is going to be much bigger because they've been at some tracks that haven't had any people. So you're going from, let's say you ran in the Arkansas Derby where in a normal year there'd be 50, 60,000 people, then you come here to 150,000. Well, now you're still going from 10,000 to 50,000, so definitely a much different scene, and that paddock just gets so crowded on Derby Day, whether there's fans here or not. It's very important to put these horses through those paces.
Got some footage of Super Stock from a little bit earlier this morning. We talked about him briefly earlier via our social media question, and family affair here with this horse, Ed. Steve Asmussen, the trainer, also has Midnight Bourbon. His father is a part owner. They were very instrumental at the farm in Texas with his mother, Marilyn, in getting this horse prepared. His son rode this horse in the first 3 starts, including his first career stakes victory. They're proud just to be here. Every horse, every connection should be. It's not easy to be one of the 20 that makes the Kentucky Derby starting gate, but this experience for Mr. Steve more special than any of the other ones he's had so far.
No, unquestionably, you get to share something with your close family like that, and not only share it with them, but they're a part of it. Whether it's picking the horse out, riding the horse, in the case of his son down at Lone Star, and I know which Lone Star Park opens today, by the way, and I know they're over the moon to have a horse that ran there that's now in the Kentucky Derby. So it's more than just the team around the horse in the stall that makes it to the Derby, and this horse is certainly emblematic of that, and off a win is in with a chance.
From Super Stock to serving up soup and sandwich, a little bit early for that. I'd rather have a ham and egg sandwich, but there's soup and sandwich, and this horse, Brandon, is a little bit more inexperienced than the vast majority of the horses in here, but he's shown a lot of raw talent. This might be a little bit too soon for him, but you never know because he has the talent to continue to move forward. I'm very interested to see what this horse does during not only Kentucky Derby week and the lead up to the race and leaving the starting gate, but in the rest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, mentioned earlier a couple days ago that if you actually go back and watch that Tampa Bay race with 3-horse field, but just how he kind of relaxed and sat behind horses and then was able to get out and explode, shows that he's got a good mind, and his breezes here have been excellent, especially on the gallop out, some really big gallop outs. So natural talent, but like you said, limited starts, and the fact too, that 1.125 miles, 1.25 miles, is it going to be too far for him?
Clariere could not be better bred than she is for the Kentucky Oaks. She's by Curlin out of the dam Cavorting, who was 8 for 13, earned over $2 million, multiple Grade 1 winning stakes router, a half-2 Thirst for Life, Moon Colony, both very productive routers. I did a pedigree analysis, and we gave some grades out. We'll come up with those graphics a little bit later on as we move forward towards the big day, the last Friday in April. But Clariere, she's my pick in the Kentucky Oaks, Ed, and she's done nothing wrong as far as her training goes to point me in a different direction.
She burst on the scene. I just looked it up in October, Churchill Downs, and I remember when she won that race, somehow wasn't the favorite, 7-2. There was already Oaks buzz around her, and given the pedigree and the connections, that was understandable. Third in that maiden race was Will Secret, so really powerful maiden race in October for the fillies. But Clariere has been spectacular from the start, and it's amazing with all that she's accomplished and the talent people think she has. You're absolutely going to get every bit of 6-1 at a minimum on Oaks Day.
Steve Asmussen won the Kentucky Oaks in 2005 with Summerlee, in 2014 with Untappable, and we are pleased to be joined by Rosie Napravnik for several workout shows moving forward. Rosie is scheduled to join us starting tomorrow, so looking very forward to that. And I believe we have a live Kentucky Derby horse on the track now. It is Sainthood Brandon, and we talked about him earlier with trainer Todd Pletcher. Again, a little bit light on experience. I didn't think he was all that great when he won at Fairgrounds on the dirt on Risen Star Day. They were hoping that maybe the horse would be good enough to run in the Louisiana Derby, pointed into the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Instead, ran a very good and troubled second that day. This is a horse that I think future is very, very bright. The arrow is pointing up on Sainthood.
I would agree. He's very interesting in the Derby and going forward as well. And Todd alluded to the fact that you could really argue he was the best horse in that race, which I thought he was without that trouble and the other horse getting the first jump and being able to get across the line. But Sainthood was impressive in that race, and he's trained to fine here. I mean, nothing flashy, but trained well enough to definitely just keep him in your radars. I would say at this point more for the supers and tries. For me, for more than the win honors, but definitely a nice horse and should have a great career.
Should have maybe asked Todd Pletcher this myself earlier, but I'm going to put you on the spot, Brandon. Maybe you have an answer. Obviously, he has 5 horses here. I'm guessing he has a pretty sizable staff here with him, maybe an assistant, some exercise riders as well. Do you think that's why these horses are coming out a little bit later, that maybe they have to switch up their exercise riders to come out, to go back in, the exercise riders get back up, and then they send these two, in this case Sainthood and Bourbonic, out to the racetrack a little bit later?
Yeah, and it's, without talking to Todd or some of the staff, it's hard to know. But, the riders get along with these. Certain riders can get along with horses better than others, too. So that could be exactly right that, Bourbonic's rider also comes out with somebody else. But they really want this particular person to be on Bourbonic because they know how to handle him. Talked about the high energy. It's interesting to see that they've also sent the pony out with Bourbonic today to make sure he doesn't do too much. So all these little things behind the scenes that go into that attention to detail that we talked about earlier.
And you talked to Todd earlier about Dynamic won at Bourbonic and the Wood Memorial, how they were all surprised that Bourbonic won. I believe it was 72-1. But now all of a sudden he's here with 4 horses. This is a former $50,000 maiden claimer. It just goes to show you as the spring progresses, different things can happen, and a horse like Bourbonic can make it here.
Well, Todd learned from the master, D. Wayne Lucas. If you have a horse who's going in the right direction and have any reason to think they might fit the race, and Todd with Bourbonic said, well, he had won at a mile and an eighth, and we know Calumet Farm likes to dance, so they took a shot and were very handsomely rewarded, especially if they backed him in the win pool as well. This would be another surprise, but, again, horses who win their final prep have been winning the Derby in the points era, so he can't be totally discounted.
Kendrick Carmouche, the first African-American rider to compete in the Kentucky Derby since 2012, and it was Kevin Krieger who was aboard for Doug O'Neill. And Brandon, this horse not very flashy in the morning. He's a deep out-the-back closer, so you're not going to see him firing bullets early in the morning.
Yeah, and it's interesting just to note, I mean, not a big fan of the workout. I mean, he got beat pretty good, and you can see there's still a lot of energy. Not a huge fan of the workout, and maybe that's just him with that lack of speed. But coming out of the race, he's showing me more energy than he did going into that work. So, I mean, that's a positive sign, and you just want to keep an eye on him, see how he does. I would like him to not get too keyed up, but maybe he's just feeling that good. He's the next breeze will definitely be telling, but comes out here, I'd like him to just be a little more focused. So it's good to get to know these horses. Glad they both, Pletcher came in with his 4, and the rest of them came in as well that have been here for a few weeks, because we get to know them a little bit, and we'll see maybe that translate into the work. Maybe you're going to see more natural early speed from that one.
Yeah, Brandon, and then just to continue on with that point, it's like, these horses are not machines, they're animals, and one day they might wake up on the wrong side of the hay. One day they might have a ton of energy. But you kind of like to see them day to day and get a good handle on, what their profile might be and how it might change from day to day might help you in your handicapping.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, horses can change overnight, and they can change from work to work, from gallop to gallop. I mean, we just saw Sainthood actually was breaking off behind Bourbonic. Now Sainthood's all the way on the backside. Bourbonic is still being hard held. They just don't want him to do too much, so that might might be a bit of a concern, but being able to pick up on these tendencies, I mean, if he's this fresh coming out of the work, I mean, I would expect him to maybe breeze a little better, but to really vault up the leaderboard, we would have to see something spectacular. But they really do change from day to day, and that's why it's important for not only for the clockers and but also for the trainers to be out here watching their horses every morning.
Out of the Pletcher 4, Known Agenda's got the best resume. Dynamic One, I know you're a little bit interested in. Sainthood, Bourbonic, maybe a little bit more of an outsider. But are these all horses that you're considering using when you put together your Kentucky Derby wagers?
I would say Dynamic won the most. Known Agenda probably going to be overbet, I think, off the win, and just people seeing what's happened since the blinkers. We'll definitely be keen to hear Brandon's thoughts on Known Agenda's final work, knowing what he thought of the last one. I would say my takeaway from today is I'm disappointed I couldn't get the jockey out of Pletcher for Sainthood.
Yeah, you tried.
I really wanted that scoop for the peeps, but we'll see who he names. I mean, there's still some big names in the room.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because there are some riding assignments that haven't been finalized for some Derby horses and some potential Oaks horses as well. I guess the trainers are sitting around waiting to see maybe somebody comes out of the race. They all have to get through their final workout. You don't want to commit to a rider at this point in time. If somebody else comes off one of their given mounts, if something were to happen that you would normally use. So, there's no sense of urgency at this stage of the game with a horse like this who doesn't have a rider yet, still a few days before the draw.
Absolutely, and Todd knows that game better than most. For better or worse, he's had Uncle Mo and Escondrea come out of the Kentucky Derby the week of the race. Both would have been likely favorites, and with Uncle Mo coming out, that allowed Johnny V to end up on Animal Kingdom. So Todd knows, twist of fate could make a big difference in terms of the rider you get, and certainly don't blame him for waiting.
You have to like what you've seen of Sainthood even today, Brandon.
Yeah, I thought very impressive gallop, very controlled, focused gallop. I mean, that's the thing I like to see more than anything, is when they're out here and they're showing good energy, but they're controlled and they really just don't do anything wrong out here. I mean, that's the biggest thing you see from Sainthood, just controlled and just really focused. You can see those ears pricked up after the gallop out. He was impressive this morning.
Bourbonic back to him galloping. And Brandon, let's talk about the physicality of some of these horses. You see the bigger horses, you see the smaller horses, you see, horses that are somewhere in between. You look at that physicality, you look at the way they move. I mean, there's just so many different elements involved in what makes a good racehorse. And obviously the mind and the heart are two of those major components.
Yeah, and, talk about the size of a horse. I mean, when you've got these longer, bigger body types, they do take a little bit to get going. Bourbonic does have plenty of length to him, not a lot of natural early speed. So it's going to take him a little bit longer to get going versus, a horse like a Caddo River or somebody with that natural early speed, or a Mandaloun that just can get it going right away. So just an interesting, just playing chess a little bit. Bourbonic didn't do as much as Sainthood out here, and I think that was probably by design, just by the fact he's showing so much energy. You don't want him to do too much, and they really, even by the finish line, the rider kind of pulled back the reins a little bit and say, hey, slow down. We're gonna jog out to the backside, but we're not doing nearly as much as some of the other ones out here.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for the designated training time for the Kentucky Derby and Oaks horses. Lots of activity today, but looking forward to even more tomorrow. We could have a lot of workers, with that forecast being a little bit on the ominous side for Saturday. We'll talk more about that in just a moment, but first I want to tell you about a great promotion that Twin Spires has. They've got great promotions. You opt into them. You can, get money back on some of your wagers, but they can also give you some help as well. If you're in the need of some last-minute betting advice at Churchill Downs for Derby Week, the Twin Spires Expert Pick previews are located on the betting page of both the Twin Spires app and on the website. Well, you'll be able to hear some experts, including the man to my left, Ed DeRosa, get his thoughts and selections for every race. So again, Expert Picks, Twin Spires app, and twinspires.com. Ed, your final thoughts on today? Obviously, sun is shining, track is fast, headed back in the right direction. Weather-wise, got to see some horses train, including one of your favorites, Besos, in that work.
Yeah, the only negative about Besos is it seems everyone liked the work, so the price continues to drop on him. Malathaat, seeing her on the track was a treat. Definitely going to be my Oaks pick, and we're getting to the nitty-gritty, Joe. Strap yourself in.
Brandon Besos looked awesome today. You had a chance to see it from the fourth floor, and we kind of like that horse going in, but you had to like him even more coming out of it. Is that your final thought of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think Besos worked really well. I saw what I saw last week, the big kick at the end. You like to see that. You like to see a horse that has a big kick to be able to gallop out like that, and stamina's not going to be an issue with him. I also was happy to see all the gallopers out here and being able to stretch their legs. And, yeah, you're right, Joe. I mean, it's just going to be such a big day tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens Saturday with the weather. But if you're joining us out there, make sure you tune in tomorrow because it's going to be big.
Thanks, Brandon. And my final thought pretty much has to do with just that, with the weather potentially coming in Saturday. Todd Pletcher alluding to the fact that he might push some of those workouts back from Saturday to tomorrow, Friday. Got a feeling he's not the only trainer that's looking at the radar that might do the same thing. So as Brandon mentioned, we're going to have a lot of activity tomorrow either way, and to help us through that activity, Ed, is two-time Kentucky Oaks winning jockey Rosie Napravnik. She's going to join us. Rosie, great at strategizing her races, going into them and coming out of them. She's going to give some great perspective.
Without a doubt, a fantastic rider, and always one that I could trust to move a horse up or on a long shot. Definitely wouldn't mind seeing her name. And, of course, she's still very involved both with horses on the track and aftercare. She's going to bring a lot of great perspective.
Looking very forward to Rosie Napravnik on the show tomorrow, Friday. That's going to wrap it up for the Kentucky Derby morning workout show for today. Looking very forward to a lot of activity coming up tomorrow, Friday, and moving forward. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody.